What's going on? How did his nemesis end up lying next to him? It was the ringing of the phone beside Bell that woke him up. He woke up groggy, reaching out to pick up the phone. As soon as his elbow moved, the aching in his bones quickly brought him to full alertness. The phone kept ringing, and he frowned, his eyes fluttering with his movements. Feeling annoyed, he struggled to get up and hang up the phone. This movement was too much. The numbness and sharp pain from below shot up to the top of his head instantly. The pain made him grit his teeth, and at the same time, it painfully brought back memories of last night. The image of a handsome and spirited officer quickly flashed through his mind. Recalling certain details, he was almost startled awake. He stiffly turned his head back. As expected, there was a man lying next to him. And this man was actually his nemesis, Quang Man. Memories flooded back, and he remembered last night at the bar. After a few rounds of drinks, some of his friends excitedly told him that they had just seen Quang Man, whose family recently went bankrupt, at the bar. They've been arch rivals since their school days, so upon hearing this, he quickly got up and asked, "Where did you see him?" After learning that Quang Man was in the restroom, he aggressively walked in that direction, planning to properly humiliate Quang Man. As expected, as soon as the door was pushed open, they saw Ching Man washing his hands, once a business star frequently on magazine covers, and now he has fallen to such a sorry state. Thinking of this, someone took out a black card from their wallet and threw it on Ching Man. "Hey, I heard you went bankrupt. Do you need sponsorship? Just sleep with me once," but before he could finish his sentence, Ching Man revealed a thoughtful smile and readily agreed. At this moment, the people from Quan Long really wanted to light a cigarette to calm down, but obviously, the situation didn't allow it. So he could only pick up the pants from the ground and hurriedly try to put them on his legs, only to find that the pain on his body was so intense that his hands were fumbling, and he struggled to put them on properly. Just then, the man on the bed woke up, grabbing the clothes of those present. "Where are you going?" The man's voice was low and hoarse, piercing the silence, causing everyone's movements to freeze instantly. He turned his head, and saw Ching Man's lightly raised eyebrows, his eyes holding a casual but deliberate question. "You're not thinking of running away after sleeping with me, are you?" Everyone's eyes widened as they stood up and distanced themselves from him. "Me? Run? Why would I run if you don't?" But his movement was too abrupt, accidentally straining his waist, causing him to grimace in pain, yet he absolutely wouldn't show weakness in front of Ching Man. So he gritted his teeth and said, "I'm going to buy you a coffin. What style do you like?" Ching Man sat up, his gaze sweeping over a certain part of his body before he casually but deliberately said, "Any style will do. Just keep your word and pay me the sponsorship money first, or I won't acknowledge you after sleeping with you. Since you're instantly happy, should I sleep with you or you with me?" Chi Man, smiling ambiguously, raises his eyes and asks, "Then, are you satisfied?" Jiren is taken aback. Following Chi Man's words, he shifts his gaze, glancing at Chi Man's figure beneath him. Then he scoffs, "Pleased? You wish. With that toothpick of yours, it's not even enough to fill the gaps between my teeth." Upon hearing this, Chi Man nods, then lifts the quilt and says, "Just you wait." Jiren, shocked, asks, "Wait for what? You want to fight?" As he speaks, he picks up the trousers from the ground and throws them over. "If you want to fight, at least put on your clothes. Otherwise, it'll be indecent if an ambulance comes and you're carried out naked." Chi Man, accepting the challenge, says, "I have professional integrity, I don't fight with my patrons. I'm going next door to ask." Jiren, confused, asks, "Ask what?" Chi Man chuckles, "To ask if they heard any moaning last night." Then he continues, "Also to tell your friends that you want a freeload." Jiren is shocked, he had never realized Chi Man could be so shameless. Although they are sworn enemies, Chi Man is usually cold and distant, unlike today, where he clings on demanding sponsorship fees, not at all like the same person. Jiren says, "Chi Man, you've lost all shame." Chi Man casually replies, "I'm bankrupt already, what's the point of keeping up appearances?" "Fine, you're ruthless." Jiren, pulling out a black card from his pocket, tosses it onto Chi Man again. "The pin is 19,951, you can only spend 500,000, any more and I'll kill you." Chi Man catches it skillfully, the card spinning on his finger. "All right. Since you've sponsored me, I can agree to any request that doesn't threaten personal safety. Everything else can wait. For now, there's just one condition." Jiren grits his teeth and says, "In the future, if anyone asks you about that matter, you must say, 'It was me who did you. The first time, I didn't know how to control it, it's my fault for not serving well. Here's my medical report, rest assured, I'm not sick." Previously on, upon waking up and finding his nemesis sleeping next to him, remembering his drunken foolishness from the night before, he originally planned to sneak away. Who would have thought the nemesis, Chi Man, would wake up at that time? Not only that, but he also claimed that Fo Wen had already booked him and demanded payment. Left with no choice, Fo Wen handed him his card. The only request was that if anyone asked about what happened last night, Shi Man must say it was he who was slept with. To his sponsor's request, Shi Man raised an eyebrow and smiled, "Got it. If anyone asks, I'll say you were amazing, did me to death, and didn't let me rest for the entire night." Fo Wen was furious, feeling like his lifespan was reduced by 20 years. "Damn it, I didn't ask you to be so detailed." "All right," Shi Man nodded, taking out his phone, "let's exchange contact info. I took the money, so naturally, I have to serve well. If you need it in the future, just contact me." Fo Wan's face turned red with anger again, but the situation was tricky, and it wasn't good to fall out with him. So after exchanging contact info, he hurriedly left. After leaving the hotel, I hailed a bright taxi and went to a small suburban villa that I had just bought recently. The first thing upon returning was to take a shower. Entering the bathroom, my usually straight back immediately bent forward. Damn, this is too painful. Not like the pain of bleeding from a fight. It's a sharp pain, hidden yet intense. Just then, my phone by my side rang, and I irritably picked it up. To see a strange message, "Are you alright?" I stared at the black profile picture for a long time before I realized who it was. Too lazy to type, I hit the voice message button, moved the phone close to my mouth, and blurted out a rant, "Can I be alright? Why don't I give you a try? I'm telling you, Chin Ma, if my ass isn't okay, I'll burn your damn clamps." Chin Ma smirked, and replied with 2 voice messages, "Where are you? I'll take you to the hospital. Save your threats of burning my house. You're scared to face even a delivery boy, let alone a doctor. You might as well die. I'm not going to any damn hospital. Speaking of which, an idea struck me, actually, it's you who should go to the hospital for a checkup right now. I casually said something while drunk last night, and you slept with me. You don't have any diseases, do you?" Of course, I knew Chin Ma wasn't sick. Who is Chin Ma? Before his bankruptcy, Chin Ma was seen as the golden boy by everyone. I guess that Chin Ma followed me last night because he was confused. But I said it anyway, to trample on Chin Ma's dignity. I thought Chin Ma would get angry or simply not reply, but within a few minutes, he sent a photo. Then came a voice message. I opened it to find 2 medical reports, which I found after a while. Chin Ma spoke as usual, "The reports are from last week. Don't worry, I'm not sick. It was my first time, I didn't know how to go easy. I didn't do a good job, so I can't take all the money, let me give you a little. Do you think 20,000 is enough?" As soon as the message ended, there was a notification in my WeChat, followed by a phone call. "He transferred 20,000 yuan to you." Since he almost didn't catch his breath, he threw his phone directly. What the hell does this bastard take him for? 5 minutes later, he was barely holding onto the edge of the bathtub as he climbed in. It was only when the cool water touched his skin that he felt alive again. He gritted his teeth, one foot resting on the edge of the tub, and picked up the phone again. Unexpectedly, he stumbled upon a post in Chin Ma's social circle, just a simple 2-word message, "Looking for work." When he first saw these words, he was utterly shocked. It was hard to believe that Chin Ma would post something like this. He opened the profile picture several times to confirm it before he was willing to believe that this post really came from Chin Ma. Lying in the tub, he not only felt a bit out of breath, Chin Ma had always given him the impression of being aloof and arrogant. Could it be that just because of bankruptcy, the man who always had an indifferent face and looked down on everyone could change to this extent? Let me tell you, there's no way in my life that I would ever take a fancy to Chin Ma. In the previous episode, we talked about how he saw Chin Ma's post in the social circle while bathing and found that the once cold and proud person was now looking for work in his social circle, leaving him feeling quite deflated. Could bankruptcy really cause that man, so indifferent and arrogant, to become so defeated? For some reason, he thought back to Chin Ma during their school days, when they were still in high school. He remembers that day after physical education class, he was surrounded by a group of boys. Because he was an illegitimate child, and he attended the same school as his legitimate older brother, he often got into trouble. Although he was young at the time, he was not weak. He fought back against the mockery of the older boys. As expected, the boy leading the group pushed him. Furious, he said, "It serves your mother right for being a mistress and getting what she deserves." This sentence struck a nerve, and he felt like telling them to say it again. After saying that, he punched one in the chest. The others around them all rushed forward, kicking and beating him up. Just then, a long, thin voice came through. It was Chin Ma, who was neither grandstanding nor modest. Hearing the commotion, the people fighting all stopped and turned to look in the direction of the voice. That scene, no matter how many years passed, he couldn't forget. The pure white school uniform made Chin Ma look like he was glowing, making him seem unattainable. Chin Ma said calmly, I have already notified the school and the police. Do you want to wait with me? The boys surrounding Jiren scattered instantly upon hearing this. What are you doing here? Jiren looked at him displeased. Are you so bored that you came here to cause trouble? Chin Ma replied, Jiren, you're hurt. Come with me to the infirmary. There was no expression on Chin Ma's face. That calm tone instantly made Jiren bristle. How could those jerks possibly hurt me? Chin Ma lowered his eyes and said nothing more, quietly looking at the wound on Jiren's face. After a long time, he said softly, this is the 5th fight you've been in this month. Jiren turned his face away awkwardly. None of your business, he said, turning to leave. Chin Ma reached out to stop him but accidentally touched the wound on his arm. Jiren yelped and shouted, let go. Chin Ma released his hand and watched as Jiren walked out of the alley. Just like that, the proud one, who had been looking for a job on social media half a minute ago, was now gone. The water in the bathtub had turned cold. Jiren turned around and said to himself, why am I still thinking about this after all this time? He clicked on the black avatar and added it to the blacklist. After taking a shower, he casually put on a bathrobe and prepared to dry his hair. Just then, someone rang the doorbell. Someone's knocking on the door early in the morning, who is so inconsiderate. Putting down the hair dryer and holding his sore back, he walked to the door and peered through the peephole, only to find that it was his close friend Yue11. Speaking of this buddy, a rich mine owner's son, who could lose hundreds of thousands on Weibo without a sweat, and was recognized by most of the city. Yue11 sat down and got straight to the point, I say, let's go partying tonight. Yesterday, Quinman was soaking, and he was taken away. Just thinking about these people made him lose interest and not go. Yue11 sized him up and down. It seems Quinman was pretty fierce last night, right? Being startled, in just a few seconds, he had already cursed Quinman's ancestors for 18 generations. But he only had a moment of shock before quickly calming down. No, Quinman and Yue11, these two are not connected in any way. Quinman couldn't possibly have told him about it. As soon as he opened his mouth, who told you I did anything with Quinman? Yue11 asked, were you drunk? You told me yourself last night. He really didn't remember that part, he drank too much last night, and his memory storage was clearly insufficient. The details before going to the hotel were long forgotten. However, he did remember how he fished Quinman on the bed. Now that he had calmed down, he even remembered the warmth of Quinman's body. He cursed silently and immediately stopped reminiscing. Yue11 continued to gossip, I knew something was off with you since school. All these years, you've kept yourself pure and haven't shown interest in anyone. Who would have thought your first time would be with the genius Quinman? You're not in love, are you? Get lost. I'd never choose Quinman, he cut him off directly. You're talking nonsense. Besides, what if I told you I was the one who did him last night? Quinman looked seriously at him, if your body wasn't in good shape, we couldn't have done anything. The higher-up mentioned that Quinman's best friend, Yue11, came to see him. During the visit, Yue11 inquired about what happened between him and Quinman last night, even going so far as to say, what if I told you I did him last night? Yue11 fell silent. After a long while, he finally spoke, his voice full of shock, are you out of your mind? With your conditions, you could easily have tons of people flocking to you. Why would you bother with Quinman? He didn't give them a chance to speak and continued to roar. You have to understand, Quinman is the dream lover of our millions of Shaolin girls. And now, he's been messed with by you? He looked speechless. Yue11, where's your dignity? Yue11 sneered. How much is dignity worth? Tell me, how much did you pay to get Quinman? I might give it a try too. Maybe I can even make him spin. Impossible, he cut him off directly, you're talking nonsense. I have principles. I've already agreed to a long-term relationship with him for a year. Yue11 waved his hand dismissively, so boring. Then take Quinman out tonight. Everyone knows you left with Quinman last night. They're all waiting to see you show off. Hearing this, he frowned, everyone knows? Yue11 looked at him with glee, who told you to be so awful last night? It's no surprise everyone knows you've bagged Quinman. He had a headache. Last night, he hadn't really intended to do anything with Quinman. Bagging him was just supposed to be like getting another little brother. But the situation had spiraled completely out of control. In the end, he could only say helplessly, all right, see you later. The silver Lamborghini was on the road and whenever it hit a red light, it always drew attention from nearby cars. He took out his phone, opened the search engine, and typed in, how to re-add someone after blacklisting them on WeChat. He thought to himself, since I've already said I'm going to bag Quinman for a year, I have to see it through. After adding Quinman back as a friend, he immediately sent him a voice message, where are you? I need to talk to you. Send me the address, I'll pick you up. After sending it, he tossed his phone aside, holding the steering wheel with one hand and resting the other casually on the car door. As soon as the light turned green, the car took off with a roar. When he reached the agreed location, he had just parked the car when he saw Quinman walking out. He was wearing a simple white hoodie and black jeans, standing straight by the street, his tall figure very eye-catching. He couldn't help but glance at his own black hoodie and jeans, feeling a bit out of place. As he got out of the car, he saw a young woman walking toward Quinman. He didn't know what she said to Quinman, but Quinman's expression remained indifferent as he shook his head. Watching Quinman's aloof demeanor, he once again remembered the cold look Quinman had during their school days when he wore his uniform, always keeping people at arm's length. This really suited Quinman's persona. He was watching with great interest, but unexpectedly met Quinman's gaze. Quinman raised an eyebrow, refused the woman's business card, and walked straight towards the car. Quinman got in, fastened his seatbelt, and then turned to him, asking, "Is your body okay?" He didn't expect him to bring up the matter as soon as he got in. He almost lost control of the gas pedal and angrily turned his head. "None of your business." "Of course, it's my business." Quinman shot him a glance. Calmly, he said, "If your body isn't in good shape, we won't be able to do anything later." He told himself to stay calm. Getting angry meant losing. Right now, the priority was to finalize the one-year contract with Quinman. So he took a deep breath and sneered, "I never said I wanted to sleep with you." Quinman nodded. "Then what are we doing now?" He stiffly said, "Going to eat." After saying that, he no longer looked at him and stepped on the gas, speeding away. "You're going to support me for a year. Is my service that good?" After finding a place in a Japanese restaurant, he said, "There's nothing else. It's just that the private rooms here are quiet and convenient for discussions." After sitting down, he picked up the menu and casually ordered 2 dishes. After the waiter closed the door, he leaned back in his chair and got straight to the point. "Let's talk about the contract. How much money do you want for a year of support?" Quinman knew that this guy never played by the rules, but he was still a bit surprised to hear this. He gently put down his chopsticks, wiped his mouth elegantly with a napkin. His refined manner made him click his tongue. Which man wipes his mouth like this after eating? So pretentious. Quinman smiled. "You're going to support me for a year. Is my service that comfortable?" "What?" Upon hearing this, he instantly exploded with anger. He kept taking deep breaths, telling himself to stay calm. After a long time, he finally snapped impatiently, "Quinman, if you don't want to hang around the city anymore, just keep going. I'm telling you, I'm supporting you not because I want to sleep with you." At least look up at him. "Instead of flirting, why are you giving me money? Don't you like my body, but rather my personality?" Jiren corrected with gritted teeth, deliberately choosing harsh words. "It's because I want you to sleep with me, satisfied?" He slammed his phone down with a thud and continued, "Not only that, but you also need to be available whenever I want. When I say left, you don't go right. Also, during our contract period, you're not allowed to mess around with others. I don't like my lover putting a green hat on me. Anyway, I'm a person with high standards, so take your time and raise your price. Don't sell yourself cheap." Quinman swallowed his sashimi and looked at him, saying, "How much money do you have there?" Jiren paused. "What do you want to do?" "Anyway, I can afford you, as long as you're not asking for an astronomical price." "Maybe 1 or 2 taels will do," Quinman laughed. "1 or 2 taels can't afford me. But since I know your brother, I can give you a friendship discount." Jiren's mood had initially calmed down a lot, but when he heard him mention Jiwei, his head immediately filled with anger. He is him, I am me. I don't need a discount. Quinman looked at Jiren's fists, which had subconsciously clenched, and thought about their families. Complicated relationships, and said no more. "Since that's the case, I want half of the total amount on your card. How about that?" "Deal." Jiren, who never cared about money, immediately agreed without hesitation, and then picked up his phone. "Done eating? Let's go to the bar later." He stood up, ready to settle the bill. After a while, Jiren came back from settling the bill and saw a middle-aged man in the hallway handing a business card to Quinman. He suddenly remembered that a young woman had also approached Quinman earlier. Jiren inexplicably felt a sense of discomfort. Walked up to them directly, and said with a serious tone, "I said no messing around with others, that includes women too, understood?" Quinman immediately understood what he was hinting at. "If you're referring to that woman on the street just now, she was a promoter. I didn't even seriously listen to her." Jiren snorted and turned to walk outside. "I heard being a celebrity makes good money these days." "What? You look down on it?" Quinman said lightly, "No experience, can't do it well," and, Jiren, seeing him stop halfway through his sentence, impatiently asked, "And what? And if I sleep with you, I can make a lot of money. Why would I want to get into that muddy water? Jiren was stunned by this statement. God, has this guy's character crumbled to this extent? He took out a cigarette, pretending to be calm. Can you stop mentioning sleeping with me? When we go to the bar later, be careful with your words. If you let something slip, I'll make sure your family goes bankrupt again. Before he could finish his sentence, his hand holding the cigarette was grabbed by Kwangman. As the person in front of him got closer, Jiren's heartbeat quickened slightly. What are you doing? Kwangman lowered his head and whispered slowly in his ear, look to your right. Jiren, confused, turned his head and saw a prominent no smoking sign on the wall, and was instantly speechless. You can play around all you want, I'll drink for you. Guys, who can resist such boyfriend power? The spot UA11 reserved was the best table at the bar. The booth was full today, and those who couldn't sit were standing around. UA11 turned around and immediately spotted Jiren and Kwangman. It wasn't because he had sharp eyes, but because the two of them stood out too much, one in front of the other in the crowd. When everyone saw UA11's gesture, they immediately knew who had arrived and stopped their conversations, all looking back in unison. Although they had heard about it from UA11 beforehand, seeing Kwangman next to Jiren in person still surprised many people, their eyes widening in shock. Even though the place was packed today, they still saved a spot for Jiren. When he arrived, everyone tactfully made way for him in the center. Without looking back at Kwangman, Jiren walked straight to his spot and sat down. As soon as he did, one of his friends beside him smiled and handed him a cigarette out of habit. Jiren took the cigarette, and someone immediately lit it for him. He had just taken a puff when he felt a tap on the outside of his thigh. It turned out that Kwangman had walked over and was now standing in front of him. But since Jiren didn't say anything, no one dared to offer him a seat. Jiren raised his head and looked at him indifferently. After taking a puff, Jiren blew smoke in Kwangman's direction and said, "No seats left, go stand outside." Seeing Kwangman's unchanged expression, everyone immediately understood that Jiren wasn't joking. He really had Kwangman wrapped around his finger. Watching this scene, two men in the corner couldn't help but exchange glances. Is it really okay for Jiren to treat Kwangman like this? His family's already bankrupt, what could go wrong? Seeing Kwangman remain still, Jiren impatiently said, "Did you hear me? Don't just stand there awkwardly." UA11 stood up to interrupt and waved at the person on Jiren's left, "Quick, move over and make a seat for Kwangman." Knowing UA11 was trying to smooth things over, Jiren flicked his cigarette ash without a word. Seeing that Jiren had no objections, the person next to him cautiously made room. Kwangman calmly sat down on Jiren's other side, and the entire booth instantly fell into an awkward silence. UA11 couldn't help but tug at Jiren's sleeve, trying to break the tension. "Little Ranran, you really know how to control the situation. Bringing Kwangman here today, you've really opened everyone's eyes." Just as he finished speaking, someone suddenly challenged, "Jiren, you're late, you owe us 3 drinks." The challenger was Gu Jae, a well-known playboy, who had always had a contentious relationship with Jiren. He casually placed his hand on the back of the seat, holding a glass of wine in the other. "Come on, I'll drink with you." Jiren shot a glare at UA11, silently asking, "Why did you invite all these clowns?" UA11 looked innocent. "It wasn't me, he was at the table next to us. It seems he came just for you." Seeing his reaction, Jiren said no more and didn't even look at Gu Jae. He simply picked up the full glass of wine in front of him and downed it in one gulp. Gu Jae's face twisted in anger as Jiren's dismissive attitude infuriated him. Damn it, this guy was ignoring him. What an ungrateful brat. Gu Jae drank while eyeing Kwangman, who was sitting next to Jiren. He refused to believe that the cold beauty of the Chin family could really be subdued by Jiren, a bastard child. Fu Jae extended his glass in front of a woman with exposed shoulders and ordered her to pour him some wine. The woman obediently grabbed the bottle and poured the wine for him. Jen smirked, realizing what Fu Jae was trying to do, and then turned to the person beside him. "Hey," Chin Man elegantly crossed his legs and hummed. "Pour me some wine." Jen tapped the bottle with his fingertips, attracting everyone's attention. Chin Man glanced at the glass, then casually put down his leg. He took a handkerchief, wrapped it around the bottle that the woman had just held, and gracefully poured the wine for Jen. Chin Man's wine pouring skills were impeccable, not a drop was spilled. Jen looked speechlessly at the glass, which was almost overflowing. With a hint of a smile, he asked, pouring it so full, "Afraid of wasting the wine, are you?" Chin Man chuckled softly, "Always." Fu Jae noticed the two of them whispering intimately and slammed his glass down heavily on the table. He spoke up, "Jen, you usually can't hold more than 3 drinks. Dare to have a few more with me?" Jen sneered, "Why not?" Fu Jae waved his hand, signaling the waiter to bring several more glasses. It's too boring to drink one by one. Let's do 10 at once, what do you think? Sure, Jen replied nonchalantly. He was long accustomed to such challenges. Fu Jie then mixed 2 types of spirits into one and filled 10 glasses, pulling the woman next to him close. It's no fun if it's just the two of us. If I lose, Lily will drink. But if you lose, Chin de Leoben will drink. Jen was stunned for a moment, then replied, we're the ones drinking, don't involve others. Before he could finish, Chin Man directly agreed on his behalf. Jen was about to object, my people, I protect myself. In the last episode, facing Fu Jie's challenge of drinking 10 glasses at once, Chin Man immediately agreed on Jen's behalf. You can play as you wish, I'll drink for you. Jen rolled his eyes, I protect myself. Who asked you to drink for me? Chin Man replied, I was just afraid you'd get drunk and throw money around. You're my big client, I can't let others benefit. Jen looked at him speechlessly, you really know how to talk. Should I give you a bonus later? No need, just pay the bill for me. Jen looked at his annoying face and tried hard to resist the urge to punch him. Taking a deep breath, he grabbed the dice cup. Chin Man, watch carefully, you won't get a chance to drink for me. Chin Man watched his determined look and a faint smile appeared on his lips. At this moment, Fu Jie was holding the beauty in his arms and coaxing, don't worry, babe, I won't let you drink. He then held up the dice cup, spun it around theatrically in the air, and finally slammed it onto the table. Jen also shook his dice cup casually and then placed it on the table. Jen, what's the deal? Fu Jie asked, with a look of confidence on his face. He wasn't really here to drink with Jen today. More than competing with Jen, he disliked Chin Man. The Chin family had snatched a lot of business from them in the past, and he had never gotten along with Jen. But here they were, walking into his trap on their own. He couldn't be blamed for not being polite. Jen didn't hesitate and called out, I bet on 5 ones, meaning if out of the 10 dice, 5 showed a single pip, Jen would win. Fu Jie didn't expect him to bet so high right off the bat. Without thinking, Fu Jie lifted his dice cup, I've got none. Afterward, he looked at Chin Man beside Jen with obvious mockery, Chin de Leoben, get ready to drink. Chin Man didn't even give Fu Jie a glance. He asked Jen, should I drink? Drink my ass. Jen directly lifted his dice cup. Inside were 5 dice, each showing a single red dot, 5 ones, a perfect set. Fu Jie's expression changed. He didn't expect Jen to shake out such a perfect set just by chance. Drink up and be done with it. Should I call 120 to send you home? You'd better get on the car quietly today, understand? Yue Wangxi, who had seen enough, joined in, exactly, a grown man relying on a woman to drink for him. Not cool, Fu Dashao. Fu Jie's face was grim. How did he manage to roll that? Jen, did you rig the dice cup? Jen sneered, you overestimate yourself. I wouldn't waste the effort on such a small thing. Saying this, he reached out and pulled Chin Man closer, continuing, I can protect my own people. Chin Man was stunned for a moment, then smiled faintly at Jen, you weren't really expecting a woman to drink for you, were you? What's there to deny? Fu Jie's smile faded, his shoulder moved forward slightly, subtly shaking off the woman named Lily. He picked up his glass, I didn't really want her to drink for me, I was just changing the rules a bit. Come on, drink. Fu Jie looked down at the glass in his hand. The glasses in the nightclub weren't large, but the alcohol was strong. Moreover, Fu Jie had mixed high-proof spirits to mess with people. After 10 glasses, he was already a bit tipsy. Although Lily hadn't been with Fu Jie for long, she knew his temper well. If Fu Jie took her back with him later, she'd be the one to suffer. So she quickly picked up the bottle to pour more wine for Fu Jie, trying to pour it lightly so the glass wouldn't be too full. But Fu Jie raised his hand and blocked the mouth of the glass. He had already downed several glasses, and with these 10 strong drinks, he was now slightly drunk, and his courage had grown. His gaze fell on Chin Man, Chin de Leoben, it's boring just sitting there. Why not come over and pour me a drink? Hearing this, Jen's face darkened, there are 2 glasses left, not drinking them, saving them for your retirement? Fu Jie chuckled and downed 1 more glass. Get up, he said, directly placing the wine glass in front of Chin Man, demanding a drink, but insisted that Boss Chin pour it for him. Immediately, everyone's attention converged on Chin Man. Chin glanced at him indifferently, without moving an inch. Seeing no response from him, he urged impatiently, hurry up, don't keep us waiting for a drink. A mix of disdain and coldness flashed across Chin Man's face, which quickly returned to normal. Just as he was about to speak, his interjection was cut off, who are you to us? Why should he pour wine for you? Are you incapable? Or is this bar out of service? Chin Man, even if he were reduced to being caught in Huo Luo's predicaments, would still only belong to him, and no one else should even think about touching him. The guy got angry. His family is bankrupt, so what's the big deal in pouring me a drink? The retort came swiftly, what does his bankruptcy have to do with you? Looking at Chin Man's back, he declared, I don't care who he is, he's under my watch now. As mentioned before, after a few drinks, he became bolder, directly saying, his family is bankrupt. What's wrong with asking him to pour a drink? The comeback was immediate, what does his bankruptcy have to do with you? The club manager, sensing trouble, tried to intervene, gentlemen, why not sit together? How about it? Mr. Gu, we've kept your original seat reserved. Why not return there? He was still trying to save face, upset at being embarrassed in front of so many people. If he let this slide, he'd lose all respect. The club manager, unsure of what to do, stood there helplessly. Both men were known for their temper, and he couldn't afford to offend either. UA11 was trying hard to signal to them, suggesting they give Mr. Gu a way out. After all, Gu's father had some underworld connections, and in such a messy place, they probably couldn't afford to mess with Gu. But he didn't care at all about Gu's background, having already made up his mind. This man kept showing up to bother him, it was inevitable they'd clash, so why not now? Just at this moment, Chin Wan suddenly spoke up, apparently in a bit of a hurry. If you already have your own spot, why do you feel the need to encroach on someone else's? Are you really that desperate for a meal worth 9 coins? I didn't expect Chin Wan to fire off like that, focusing on trying a shot, following the big shadow of the lamp. What? Before he could finish speaking, Chin Wan suddenly leaned towards that side. Since we're old friends, why don't you settle his bill for him? Chin Wan paused for a moment, then it dawned on him. As soon as he opened his mouth to speak, he wanted to attack. Sprawling on the sofa, turning into a tide in the ash water, moving the alleyway, hear that, charge it to my account. Gu was instantly furious, hence he first chose a softer approach. Chin Wan, I'll let you make a fool out of me. Acting as if he was still the big boss. Believe it or not, I can make you come in crawling and leave horizontally today, since I can't stand anyone acting like a boss in front of me. Who are you trying to scare? Chin Wan, standing by, remained unfazed. If you really had that ability, wouldn't someone have been beheaded half a year ago? Once these words were spoken, everyone started discussing, and even Gu was momentarily silent, his expression even more shocked than before. That day he went to the nightclub alone. It was that day. How could Chin Wan possibly know? If his father found out about this, he would be dead for sure. Thinking of this, Gu hastily left after dropping a harsh word. Although it seemed like a casual encounter, after the demons and ghosts had left, UA11 approached and asked curiously, Chin Wan, what's the story behind the broken leg? In a flash, Chin Wan smiled. He messed with someone he shouldn't have, got his leg broken, and was bedridden for half a year. Really? UA11 was shocked, pulled out WeChat to look up the topic. I can't believe I haven't heard of this. Old lady, in those 99 gossip groups, I've lost, said Chin Wan, maybe the news in there isn't circulating well enough. Moon 11 held her phone, looking at the ants bubbling with gossip, saying they never do anything serious and just ogle handsome guys all day. Brother Chin Wan, you've passed our gossip group scrutiny. What do you think, interested? Chin Wan asks, is Jiren in there? Jiren just says, what does it have to do with me? Like Moon 11, Jiren coyly said he despised our group and refused to join. Chin Wan teased back, then I won't join either. Moon 11 didn't press the issue. Standing up, she half-jokingly said to him, fine, whenever you're interested. Just send me a request anytime, and with that, she immediately walked away. After she left, silence fell over the booth like the stillness of death. Shu Jiujian nonchalantly criticized the action, saying using such things to threaten people is just wrong. I was even ready to make a move. But it ended like this. Chin Wan took the drink from his hand. But Chin Wan said, as long as it works. The security of this place is all under his father's control. If you start something with him here, you're likely to be at a disadvantage. As soon as he finished speaking, a man approached from not too far away. He bent over and said to Jiren, last time at the sports car event, I was grateful for your introduction to the mechanic. I owe you a drink. Jiren also recalled him and said it was nothing. Just be more careful with your turns next time. You always turn too sharply, risking crashing. The man chuckled and scratched his head. Well, I just wanted to show off my drifting skills to you. Jiren picked up his glass and clinked it with the man's. Perhaps, you'll never learn. Come on, join me for a game of dice. Chin Wan watched them from the side and thought, so he likes to play with race cars. Just then, his phone in his pocket began to vibrate. Chin Wan took his eyes away from them, pulled out his phone, and looked at it. Randomly standing up and looking at Jian, I'm going to the bathroom. Jian didn't even turn his head and just said go ahead. After the person left, the person in front of him said, "Ran, I need to tell you something. Chin Wan isn't someone easy to provoke. You really shouldn't mess with him. I've seen him at parties. Do you know who talks to him?" Jian asked indifferently, "Who? The King of Heaven?" The person continued, "Close enough, I'm not exaggerating." Jian paused, leaning back on the sofa, and said nonchalantly, "I don't care who he is, he still answers to me now. Don't worry, I'll definitely be punctual for such an important occasion." After hanging up the phone with his mother, Chin Wan turned around and walked towards the front desk. "Chin Wan," someone called out. Chin Wan looked up and saw a familiar figure standing behind him. It was a young boss who had just taken over a company. Chin Wan took 2 puffs of his cigarette, smiling faintly. "What's up?" The young boss hesitated. After watching him, I took a breath and said, "I know about your family's current situation. So here's the thing, my company has a big project at the end of the year. As long as you're willing to come over, this job is yours. At the grassroots level, I can offer you this figure. As for the small boss's paperwork, just top it up with a number." Chin Man glanced at him, thinking that the company must be quite significant. The end of the year is the same for small bosses. "What does it count for? I know what you want to teach your company to do." "So what you mean is," Chin Man smiled and cut him off, "Sorry, I've found a decent persistence for now. I plan to rest for a while and am not considering formal employment at the moment." Back at his booth, Chin Man found that several cases had already left their seats. He asked the person who had been talking to them, "Where did they go? Where are they?" That person gestured and tried to explain, "Rand just suddenly received a phone call and left in a hurry." "Didn't he tell you?" Seeing Chin Man silent, the person continued, "It must have been urgent. I guess he definitely didn't mean to leave you here on purpose." Chin Man's expression relaxed a lot, and he nodded with a smile, "I know, he's someone who would consider others." The man pondered for a moment, wondering if they were talking about the same Ran. At that moment, Chin Man's phone vibrated. He opened it to see a WeChat message from Dad transferring 1,000 yuan, followed by a few seconds of voice message. The profile picture showed a car window rolled down, the sound of wind whooshing, and a young man's voice mixed within. "I have something urgent, so I left first. Use this money to take a cab home." Chin Man's expression slightly shifted, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Then with a mature look, he accepted the money and casually forwarded it in WeChat to a friend who had long been supported without any utilization. On his way home, as soon as he approached the neighborhood, he saw a hurried car parked outside his house. He relaxed slightly, approached the car. He rolled down the window and called out to the hurried car with its dark windows down, but there was no response. Without waiting, the window slowly rolled down, and the driver inside said, "Continue, young master. Or perhaps you should open the garage first. It's windy outside, and the old lady is afraid it's cold." Yuran glanced away for 2 seconds, then looked back as the car moved forward. After reversing to capture the license plate, the garage door opened automatically. Lacey rushed into the garage a step ahead, parking the car smoothly. Before getting out, he remembered something. He took out the Galaxy from the glove compartment and casually threw it on the seat. The neighboring flying car finally deigned to open its door. An old man, seemingly taking his time, agreed to come out. He made his way to the living room where Mrs. G, sitting upright, was tending to the stove. She glanced at their clothes, her expression barely concealing her disdain, but quickly returned to normal. "It's been years since I've seen you. You've grown taller. Grandma, we haven't seen each other for 7 years, they laughed, reminding her. "It's hard to say we're that close." Mrs. G nodded, 7 years, yes. "You've only come to Haicheng to see me once." The laughter revealed white teeth. "I've been busy, Grandma." Mrs. G knew this was an excuse. Her grandson, who was a troublemaker at school and didn't find a proper job after graduation, was always spending money recklessly. What could he possibly be busy with? She directly asked, "In the years I've been away, how many times have you returned home?" Mentioning the G family immediately made him lose all patience. "Grandma, what did you want to see me for? This Friday is your brother's engagement banquet at the house with the garden in the suburbs. It's time for you to make a trip." Yuran snorted coldly, assuming it was because they feared his absence at the banquet might lead to rumors about the illegitimate child of the G family. Seeing that Mrs. G wanted to continue speaking but Yuran interrupted her, "I know. I'll go. You're the only one in the family who still thinks of me. How could I let you lose face? Don't worry. For such an important occasion, I'll definitely be on time," he reassured. "Ladies and gentlemen, our prodigal son finally makes his noble appearance." On the day of the engagement party, the welcoming party spotted their own from afar. He said goodbye to the people in front of him and quickly walked over to Chin Man's side. "I was worried you wouldn't come." Chin Man's smile was faint, his black suit adding a touch of solemnity. The meticulously prepared welcome party staff saw him handing over a carefully chosen gift for the engagement ceremony, saying congratulations. Several people took the gifts. Thank you, you shouldn't have. Are you okay, Chin Man? Nothing's wrong, right? These people are quite nice. They patted his shoulder. That's it for the trials. I won't say more than necessary. If there's anything you need, just let Jing Guang know. Chin Man hummed in acknowledgement. I'll go inside first. You go and attend to the others, brother. A familiar voice came from behind, making Chin Man stop in his tracks. He turned to look towards the voice, and upon seeing the person clearly, Chin Man couldn't help himself. His mouth couldn't stop curving upwards. He saw Ji Ran in a tailored black suit, looking tall, slender, and distinguished. With his already delicate and handsome features, he resembled a beloved prince. His hair dyed in a conspicuous and vibrant green stood out under the sunlight, making him look particularly striking. Seeing Chin Man, Ji Ran was also surprised, but he quickly turned away, putting on a harmless smile, greeted by several frowning faces. Crazy happy, brother, they said coldly. It was evident they were holding back because of the presence of others, but their irritation was undeniable. Why are you here? Ji Ran tousled his hair. As your brother is ill, it's only right for me to bring some cheer. And where's sister-in-law? Which family's daughter is so fortunate? Their faces turned ashen. In their eyes, this brother was a symbol of their father's betrayal of the family. Every time they saw Ji Ran, they couldn't suppress the anger in their hearts. No one owes you a storyline. It seemed Ji Ran remembered something. They cut to the chase. Be straightforward. I actually do have a message for you. Either leave now or act like a guest and stay quiet inside. If there's any trouble today, I'll definitely hold you accountable. Ji Ran's smile faded. First off, it's not your turn to run the family household yet. And even if one day it does fall into your hands, I have nothing to do with you. Don't start with me here. This was the message from King Ji to them. He turned around, feeling satisfied. Then, he walked into the wedding banquet, leaving Kamen a bit puzzled by his actions. The people nearby quickly composed themselves, masking their emotions to avoid revealing any family troubles. Kamen focused on the departing figure and said, "It's all right. I'll head in too." After saying that, he followed Xian into the venue, noticing Xian's green hair and finding it quite attractive. As Xian entered the hall, he immediately spotted the other main character of the day, the bride. She appeared graceful and elegant in her white gown, surrounded by several meticulously dressed individuals, clearly not from an ordinary family. He thought to himself, at the level of the Ji family, genuine marriages are rare. It's a pity that they have to be so rigid, wasting such a good setup. What should we do? A voice suddenly whispered in his ear. Turning around, he saw Kamen had quietly appeared behind him, moving so silently that he hadn't noticed. Kamen reached out to adjust his hair but stopped short. Why did you do your hair like this? Xian swatted his hand away. This is a gift for my brother's engagement. I specifically asked UA11 to find the best stylist. By the way, what are you doing here? Can you even afford a gift? Kamen's gaze narrowed. You didn't use the money I gave you to buy gifts, did you? Don't think I don't know. You two have been inseparable since school. Xian knew he was being unreasonable but couldn't help it. Once the money is in Kamen's hands, he can spend it however he likes, but it still irks me, he thought. Kamen responded calmly, no, I used my own money. I bought a couple's watch, it wasn't expensive. Xian looked unimpressed. Cheap gifts will get you looked down upon. If you can't afford something decent, it's better not to come. Your brother will understand. Xian smirked. You and your brother have a strong bond, don't you? Just then, the butler who was accompanying Madame Ji approached them. Young Master Ji, Madame has reserved a seat for you at the third table. Reluctantly, Xian went to his assigned seat. The butler, relieved, then turned to Kamen, gesturing politely, Sir, please come this way. Your seat is at the main table. Kamen interrupted, no need. Just seat me at the third table as well. If you want to see more exciting follow-ups, click on the lower left corner to watch PP. My father-in-law and I are mortal enemies. Watch how Kamen gradually wins over everyone. Xian is my junior, of course, I know him, Kamen continued. Following the arrangement, Xian sat down at the third table in the banquet hall. Just then, he received a message from UA11. Xiao Ranran, you're so bold. My social circle is abuzz because of you. Xian, puzzled, kept reading. The message included a screenshot from social media. Xian opened the image and immediately recognized his green hair. It seemed like someone had secretly photographed him as he got out of the car, and the image was in high definition. The caption read, I searched through dreams for 1,000 times, and this picture will be with me forever. Just look at that face and those legs. The comments were full of exaggerated flattery. I'm willing to kneel for him, to split my lips just to speak to him. What nonsense is this? Zian wondered, then realized who made the last comment. I'm going to punch him. Just as he was about to type a reply, he felt warmth on his ear as if someone was pinching it. He looked up in surprise. Kamen quickly let go and asked, why are your ears so red? Zian hurriedly closed the chat. Who's stalking me? Are you following me everywhere? Kamen leaned in casually. Isn't my job to accompany you? Zian retorted, I'm not you, I don't need company. When I need something, I'll ask. It's not always a mistake to be too forward. Kamen, feigning hurt, said, but you never asked for me. Are you avoiding me? The two of them made an odd pair, one an illegitimate child, the other an outsider. The people at the table couldn't help but glance over, sensing some tension. Zian, growing uncomfortable, wanted to end the conversation. Yes, I'm just a scumbag. Do you have a problem with that? Kamen smiled, no, I just like scumbags. Zian looked frustrated, unsure of how to respond, when suddenly, Kamen reached out and held Zian's hand. Zian turned to find Kamen staring at him seriously. Zian, I came here today just to see you. Zian quickly withdrew his hand. His face turned pale. You don't have to be so earnest. I'm not going to dock your pay, Kamen chuckled softly, then pulled back. The market's doing well right now, but it's still not easy to make a living. It's okay to be cautious, Zian sighed in relief, thinking, as expected, it was just Kamen being playful. But just now, that was too much. I couldn't handle it, he thought. Not wanting to talk anymore, Zian put on his earphones. I'm going to play a game. You do whatever. Kamen watched as Zian opened the game interface and smiled to himself. Let's take it slow, no need to rush. Meanwhile, outside the venue, Zian's father, Ji Guojun, was overseeing the preparations. Surveying the decorations, he remarked, this engagement party is too noisy. Why didn't they hold it in a hotel? Ji Wei, who was helping organize, explained helplessly. He said he preferred a garden setting. Ji Guojun nodded and was about to enter the venue when Ji Wei stopped him. By the way, did Zian come? Mother will definitely be upset if she sees him. Ji Guojun looked at him sternly. Is it your mother who's upset or you? Don't worry, your mother knows how to handle herself. But you, don't let an insignificant person distract you. Ji Wei bit his lip. I understand. Ji Guojun suddenly remembered something. Also, did Kamen arrive? The new project manager wants to discuss the land deal with him. Ji Wei pointed into the distance. He just went in, but before long, he and Zian were sitting together. The two were hunched over their phones, looking relaxed. At that moment, Zian was quietly cursing under his breath. Damn, I died again. Kamen commented, I warned you, someone was sneaking up on you. Realizing Zian hadn't responded, he noticed that the game sound was too loud, and Zian's earphones were practically blasting noise. Otherwise, if it is taken off, then turned his head angrily. What are you doing? The music is so loud, don't you want your ears? He grabbed the headphones and whispered, isn't it because you keep nagging in my ear? Ji Basheng walked over, and Chi Man quickly stood up. Uncle Ji, long time no see. Ji Basheng walked to Chi Man's side without even looking at him. Why did you come without telling me? He glanced around and said, calling him so warmly, people might think Chi Man just arrived. How did you arrange Chi Man at this table? It's so thoughtless. Someone quickly explained, I arranged his seat at the main table. Maybe the steward made a mistake. He looked at Chi Man skeptically. Isn't the main table reserved for the bride and groom's family? How could someone from the logistics department be invited to the main table? Chi Man quickly responded, I'm fine sitting here. It's been a long time since I saw Uncle Ji, I just wanted to catch up. Only then did Ji Basheng shift his gaze to his son. Feeling the gaze on him, he didn't stand up or speak. Someone asked, when did you two get to know each other? Instead of letting the person finish, he stood up and placed his right hand on Chi Man's shoulder. Can't you understand? He wants to catch up with me. His abrupt attitude stunned the person, who was about to react when Chi Man intervened first, suddenly raising his hand to hold the person's fingertips lightly smiling. How could we not know each other? Then he looked playfully, everyone, if you want to see more exciting content, please click the bottom left to quickly watch more. See how Chi Man gradually wins over our male lead. You guys wouldn't expect, after more than 20 years of scarcely stepping through the family doors, a single sentence of affection was all it took to open him up. The superior spoke, and upon hearing the questions about you guys, affection suddenly raised his hand, grasped your fingertips, and chuckled softly, you're essentially my junior, how could I not recognize you? Surrounded by a warm embrace, he was about to search for an answer. Unexpectedly, the other person applied force, and he couldn't break free at all. Furthermore, while holding his hand, affection, in a manner not visible to others, gently dissipated his persistence. Damn, He was instantly overwhelmed. At that moment, as the nation was about to act lightly, he forcefully withdrew his hand. Affection looked towards the nation weakly. I'm saying, there are too many people around, it's not nice to speak loudly. Hence, behind affection, he pinched him lightly. Because the playful distance was just right. Such a subtle private action felt charmingly like flirting. Hearing this, the nation looked at him and suggested, why don't you stay here tonight? Continue the catch-up, it would be quite a gathering. It's a shame to let such good brotherhood dissipate. How considerate. Affection smiled, how could I impose on you? Saying this, he turned to look at the others, are you also staying here tonight? The personnel were eavesdropping, not expecting affection to bring the conversation to them. They were caught off guard. Just about to deny, they heard the nation say, he's staying here. He stopped smiling and finally deigned to give him a glance. You should also prepare yourself with no regrets. Stay tonight, your grandmother wants to talk to you. Jiren never expected that he would be so close to Canada for over 20 years. With just a single sentence, he actually tasted openness. But why? He Guo-jung is not a philanthropist, so why would he care so much about a bankrupt sentimentalist? If it weren't for the previous court's public announcement of the sentimentalist's bankruptcy, he would have suspected that this person was pretending to be poor on purpose in front of him. After dropping this remark, He Guo-jung said to the sentimentalist, they just asked me about the situation. Let's go and greet them. The sentimentalist nodded, gave a thumbs up, and then turned back to Jiren and instructed, Junior, I'll be right back. Jiren rolled his eyes, just go. Why tell me? The sentimentalist smiled at him and turned to leave. Jiren sat back down, took a deep breath, and finally relaxed. He shook the red wine in his hand, gazing intently at the sentimentalist. According to a friend from the media, the sentimentalist has been following He Guo-jung closely, like a wily old fox from just a few weeks ago. Their smiles and elegance in front of others were just like those in the alcohol business market. Hypocritical, Jiren cursed inwardly, and raised his wine glass to his mouth. Bored with the drinking, Jiren put down his glass, ready to get up and sneak off to the bathroom for a smoke. As he lit up in the stall, he heard footsteps from the corner. How could it be sentimentalist? He's really broke. Talk about enemies on a narrow road. Jiren blew out a smoke ring and continued to listen. The other person spoke, so what if he's broke? My dad values character, and besides, my dad was sober and wanted to help him. Every word is like lighting a fire, no one can handle it when it's said like that. Oh, right, I just saw it, your voice got louder by several degrees, can't you not do that? Why listen to that bastard? Another person hurriedly said, don't be angry, I'm just curious, why did you pick him up? Do you want to mess with him? Just say it, well I'll help you. With a glance, he seemed to say you guys really came. He squinted, still not knowing who was messing with whom. The voices of the others continued, that bastard was called by my grandma. Today is my engagement banquet, don't cause trouble, I'll find someone to talk to him in a bit. Let the security throw him out. He took a puff of his cigarette and pinched the cigarette end. Then directly opened the compartment door. I heard you guys were saying, don't you want to wait for me? Guys, do you think too highly of yourself? As he spoke, the smoke wafted from his mouth. I'm telling you, not only will you dare not leave me, but tonight you also have to open the main door wide and invite me in. Their faces immediately fell. One of Ah Shung's friends was the first to react. You, what about you? He shrugged off his hand, looked his friend up and down, and said, you're just too used to being coddled. Believe it or not, I could send you flying from the bathroom to the stage with just one punch. The atmosphere immediately changed, and everyone fell silent. Half a laugh later, he finally said, I'm kidding, how could I hit someone? His tone was particularly insincere as he looked at the two of them. Don't overestimate yourself and instruct me on what's right. I'm not interested in hearing about your family matters. At this moment, inside the inspection site, Jiwon is having a conversation with a woman of pleasant appearance. Upon seeing Jiwon's return, she still asked, who exactly offended her? At this moment, Jiwon dared to take a breath and headed to the restroom. With an expressionless face, Jiwon couldn't help but think, looks like the most troublesome thing is yet to be found. Jiwon then escorted her all the way back to the host. Just now, after being rejected, Xiao Tang felt a bit embarrassed. Seeing Jiwon return, she blushed and called out, Jiwon. Jiwon chuckled at her previous displeasure and said, so, did you get what you wanted this time? Then turned to look at Qin Ma, my cousin has admired you for a long time, you should at least accompany her. Qin Ma smiled without changing his expression and said, yeah, she was my junior in high school. Qin Ma softly apologized, sorry, I don't get excited easily. The girl's smile faded a bit, but she remained sweet, it's okay, I didn't expect much. Jiwon added, now that you know each other, it's the same. Qin Ma, My cousin admires you a lot. She's even preparing to apply to the university you attended. Since you're her senior, why not lend her a hand? Chinma nodded and took out his phone. Sure. The girl's eyes lit up and she quickly opened her WeChat. Chinma handed his phone to her, showing a QR code. I have a friend who's still studying there. Contact him, he'll help you. When Chinma returned to the table, Jiwon was intently staring at his phone, engaged in a fierce shooting game. Without looking up, he whispered, Chinma, let me tell you something. If you dare to take my money and give it to someone else, you'll be in trouble. But honestly, you talk like a good junior. Chinma watched him play with interest. So you've been observing? I'm not seeing anyone else. Your cousin just asked me for advice on her studies. Jiwon found it amusing. How come no one in your family came up with that idea? A university student needs advice? Maybe they've already pulled some strings for her before she even enters the school. Chinma frowned slightly. By the way, why was Jiwon troubled? Jiwon didn't stop playing and responded, this is my business, what does it have to do with you? Knowing he wasn't bullied, Chinma relaxed, then asked, are you staying tonight? Jiwon raised his head and looked at him. What are you planning? Chinma patted his shoulder. If you're staying, you should eat something first. It seems like this house doesn't usually cook, and there's not much takeout nearby. You might not have anything to eat tonight. Jiwon was nonchalant. I'll manage. At precisely 9 p.m., the meeting ended. The butler led Chinma to the first guest room near the stairs. Mr. Chin, this is your room. There's a phone on the nightstand. Just call if you need anything. Chinma waved. Thanks. Jiwon lives next to me? The butler replied, no, Ms. Ji lives next door. Mr. Jiwon lives at the end of the corridor. Jiwon interrupted them, heading straight to his room, waving the butler off. Enough, do we really need to be coddled like kids? I know where my room is. I'll call if I need anything. The room had its own bathroom, so Jiwon quickly freshened up. He walked out to the balcony to enjoy the breeze, only then realizing that the surroundings were all trees, with no other scenery. Jiwon started to regret it, wondering if he had lost his mind coming all the way out to this desolate place just to help Jiwon vent. He returned to his room, picked up the cigarette pack from the table, and found it empty. So, he grabbed a jacket and stepped out to go to the car for more cigarettes. Unexpectedly, as soon as he opened the door, he heard people talking outside. It was Jiwon's voice. Chinma, how did you and Jiwon meet? Jiwon paused, glancing in the direction of the sound. Chinma and Jiwon were standing at the edge of the stairs, both with their backs to him, unaware of his presence. He only heard Chinma say, I told you, he's a junior. Of course, I know he's your junior, but you didn't interact much back then. Isn't it because your family's current situation made him seek you out? Chinma cut him off. Even though my family has fallen on hard times, we're not that desperate. You're overthinking it. Besides, he's your brother, how can you say that? I'm warning you, don't get too close to him. Jiwon took a deep breath and continued, I rarely say this, but after all, he's my dad and stepmom's son. Chinma's voice was firm, you don't need to tell me about your family matters, I'm not interested. If there's nothing else, I'm going to rest. For more updates, click the link in the lower left corner, http://shop.funds.com to see whether Jiwon will quit drinking after this. I thought it was someone else. If I had known, I wouldn't have dressed up. Chinma returned to his room, picked up his phone, and sent a message to his new boss. Did you drive here today? As soon as the message was sent, a red icon appeared in front of it. You're not his friend yet, please send a request. Chinma chuckled, I wonder what offended him again. Late at night, Chinma was sound asleep when he was awakened by a knock on the door. He quickly remembered that this wasn't his home, so he threw on a robe and went to open the door. As soon as the door opened, a strong scent of alcohol wafted in. It turned out to be his new boss, standing outside, dressed just as casually, with his pants obviously thrown on haphazardly. Jiwon's eyes were glossy, filled with tears, and his whole body was trembling. Suddenly, he spoke, Chinma, let's sleep together. Chinma was startled, now? Jiwon nodded, yes. Jiwon, you're drunk, Chinma said with a smile. Jiwon shook his head, I'm not drunk. Don't overestimate yourself and instruct me on what's right. I'm not interested in hearing about your family matters. At this moment, inside the inspection site, Jiwon is having a conversation with a woman of pleasant appearance. Upon seeing Jiwon's return, she still asked, who exactly offended her? At this moment, Jiwon dared to take a breath and headed to the restroom. With an expressionless face, Jiwon couldn't help but think, looks like the most troublesome thing is yet to be found. Jiwon then escorted her all the way back to the host. Just now, after being rejected, Xiao Tang felt a bit embarrassed. Seeing Jiwon return, she blushed and called out, Jiwon. Jiwon chuckled at her previous displeasure and said, so, Did you get what you wanted this time? Then turned to look at Qin-ma. My cousin has admired you for a long time, you should at least accompany her. Qin-ma smiled without changing his expression and said, yeah, she was my junior in high school. Qin-ma softly apologized, sorry, I don't get excited easily. The girl's smile faded a bit, but she remained sweet, it's okay, I didn't expect much. Ji-won added, now that you know each other, it's the same. Qin-ma, my cousin admires you a lot. She's even preparing to apply to the university you attended. Since you're her senior, why not lend her a hand? Qin-ma nodded and took out his phone, sure. The girl's eyes lit up and she quickly opened her WeChat. Qin-ma handed his phone to her, showing a QR code. I have a friend who's still studying there. Contact him, he'll help you. When Qin-ma returned to the table, Ji-won was intently staring at his phone, engaged in a fierce shooting game. Without looking up, he whispered, Qin-ma, let me tell you something. If you dare to take my money and give it to someone else, you'll be in trouble. But honestly, you talk like a good junior. Qin-ma watched him play with interest, so you've been observing? I'm not seeing anyone else. Your cousin just asked me for advice on her studies. Ji-won found it amusing, how come no one in your family came up with that idea? A university student needs advice? Maybe they've already pulled some strings for her before she even enters the school. Qin-ma frowned slightly, by the way, why was Ji-won troubled? Ji-won didn't stop playing and responded, this is my business, what does it have to do with you? Knowing he wasn't bullied, Qin-ma relaxed, then asked, are you staying tonight? Ji-won raised his head and looked at him, what are you planning? Qin-ma patted his shoulder, if you're staying, you should eat something first. It seems like this house doesn't usually cook, and there's not much takeout nearby. You might not have anything to eat tonight. Ji-won was nonchalant, I'll manage. At precisely 9 p.m., the meeting ended. The butler led Qin-ma to the first guest room near the stairs. Mr. Qin, this is your room. There's a phone on the nightstand, just call if you need anything. Qin-ma waved, thanks. Ji-won lives next to me? The butler replied, no, Ms. Ji lives next door. Mr. Ji-won lives at the end of the corridor. Ji-won interrupted them, heading straight to his room, waving the butler off, enough, do we really need to be coddled like kids? I know where my room is. I'll call if I need anything. The room had its own bathroom, so Ji-won quickly freshened up. He walked out to the balcony to enjoy the breeze, only then realizing that the surroundings were all trees, with no other scenery. Ji-won started to regret it, wondering if he had lost his mind coming all the way out to this desolate place just to help Ji-won vent. He returned to his room, picked up the cigarette pack from the table, and found it empty. So, he grabbed a jacket and stepped out to go to the car for more cigarettes. Unexpectedly, as soon as he opened the door, he heard people talking outside. It was Ji-won's voice, Qin-ma, how did you and Ji-won meet? Ji-won paused, glancing in the direction of the sound. Qin-ma and Ji-won were standing at the edge of the stairs, both with their backs to him, unaware of his presence. He only heard Qin-ma say, I told you, he's a junior. Of course, I know he's your junior, but you didn't interact much back then. Isn't it because your family's current situation made him seek you out? Qin-ma cut him off, even though my family has fallen on hard times, we're not that desperate. You're overthinking it. Besides, he's your brother, how can you say that? I'm warning you, don't get too close to him. Ji-won took a deep breath and continued, I rarely say this, but after all, he's my dad and stepmom's son. Qin-ma's voice was firm, you don't need to tell me about your family matters, I'm not interested. If there's nothing else, I'm going to rest. For more updates, click the link in the lower left corner, http://shop.funds.com to see whether Ji-won will quit drinking after this. I thought it was someone else, if I had known, I wouldn't have dressed up. Qin-ma returned to his room, picked up his phone, and sent a message to his new boss. Did you drive here today? As soon as the message was sent, a red icon appeared in front of it. You're not his friend yet, please send a request. Qin-ma chuckled, I wonder what offended him again. Late at night, Qin-ma was sound asleep when he was awakened by a knock on the door. He quickly remembered that this wasn't his home, so he threw on a robe and went to open the door. As soon as the door opened, a strong scent of alcohol wafted in. It turned out to be his new boss, standing outside, dressed just as casually, with his pants obviously thrown on haphazardly. Ji-won's eyes were glossy, filled with tears, and his whole body was trembling. Suddenly, he spoke, Qin-ma, let's sleep together. Qin-ma was startled, now? Ji-won nodded, yes. Ji-won, you're drunk, Qin-ma said with a smile. Ji-won shook his head, I'm not drunk. In fact, he is innocent, the alcohol content in the drink he had was low. He was just a bit flushed and tipsy. After he returned to his room, the more he thought about it, the angrier he got. What does it mean to ask for man to be with him, to hang out? Clearly, he is man's benefactor. Those fools know nothing. With just one word from him, man would have to prostrate at his feet. Seeing man remaining silent, agitated to the point of taking my money, could he not have been a bit more slick with the task? His shirt wasn't buttoned properly, leaving a large patch of white skin exposed on his left shoulder. The masculine lines of his body were vaguely visible in the dark. Man, looking a bit red-faced, do you know where we are? Impatient now, I won't bother with this, I'll go out and find some fun. He turned and was about to leave when his hand was grabbed by someone. Come in, man ordered in a voice that pressed down like an old fox tempting a sole. Gritting his teeth, he stepped in. As soon as he entered the room, he heard a click, and the door was shut, plunging the story back into darkness. The window shutters were tightly closed. He could hardly see anything and shifted a few times, accidentally bumping into a cabinet next to him, making a small sound. Man grabbed him again, this time his hand on the floor. Be careful. The other's palm was very warm. He blurted out, why not turn on the light? Man laughed, who sleeps with the lights on? After saying that, he reached over and pressed the switch on the floor, turning on the small lamp by the bed, weakly illuminating the room. Then he walked toward the edge of the bed, slowly unbuttoning his shirt. I thought it was someone else, so I just threw on the shirt haphazardly. The buttons aren't even done right. If I'd known, I wouldn't have bothered wearing it. Under the yellow light, his upper body was illuminated. Man sat down on the bed, while pulling the cabinet to the other side and taking a seat, both hands on the bed, leaning back. Come on. Only then did he realize how fast his heartbeat was, even the pulse on his neck was trembling slightly. He stood still, trying to remember how he had managed this last time. Man teased, what's wrong? Are you scared? He never backed down, lifting his chin defiantly, scared my ass. He walked over, back straight, hands and feet in sync, awkwardly following the invitation to sit at the edge of the bed. Watching the person by his single bed, who would disappear without a trace after a night's sleep, he suppressed a laugh and said, be careful not to fall off. As soon as he touched the bed, he felt his behind being drawn to it and thought to himself that this time he must get back up, to let the inviter experience the same pain. As he was thinking, a sudden sensation of a wooden fish hit came. The inviter felt for the spot and braced his hand by his leg. If you don't hold on, how will you stay put? Feeling his determination rising, he gritted his teeth and pushed hard. Don't worry about what I'm thinking, just lie down properly. The inviter obediently laid down in the middle of the bed, resting his face on his hands, thinking the stripping must continue. Then he saw his chance and pressed down on him. Why are you in such a hurry? Don't you know how? Let me do it instead. As the superior spoke, he came into the inviter's room, pretending to be drunk, intending to sleep together, and saw the inviter continue to strip. Once more he was annoyed. Why are you in such a hurry? Don't you know how? Let me do it instead. The inviter was amused by him, actually, a little bit, and it's already past 3 a.m. We should sleep. No kidding, just lying there. The inviter looked over again, and as he thought about it, he managed to take a couple of deep breaths. It's just sleeping, he thought to himself, it's not a big deal. So he steeled himself, took off his shoes, and climbed into bed. Thus, they looked at each other in the dawn, locking eyes for a moment. Seeing the person returning to himself, he wanted to laugh but held back due to the unbearable urgency. So, he opened his mouth. Sit down, since you've mentioned it, stop rushing me, you'll scare me to death. But how exactly should he sit down? He wasn't without experience in watching movies, but when it came to actually doing it, he had no idea where to start. At this moment, a guiding hand reached out to him, offering a clue. Chin Wen hooked the corner of his mouth. Do you not know how? How could I not? But before he could finish his sentence, Chin Wen suddenly stood up. Folks, due to censorship reasons, the following scene is omitted. Those who want the complete version, follow the rules and join the fan group to find out. After it was over, they ate instant noodles together. What kind of experience is this? In the previous episode, it was mentioned that they came to participate in a photoshoot for a magazine cover. In the evening, he drunkenly went to Chin Wan's room. The rest of the plot, you can guess. 2 hours later, he was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the residual excitement to fade away. Only after slowly regaining his composure did he turn over and ask, got a cigarette? Chin Wan opened the drawer and sat beside him. No, I don't smoke. Lying again? He was halfway through his sentence when Chin Wan interrupted. The last time you smoked was with you guys. That's called stealing. He finished, and was about to get out of bed when Chin Wan grabbed him. Where are you going? He replied, to the car to get cigarettes. Chin Wan said, let me go instead, I'm worried you'll be seen. Since it's like stepping on your tail, you're angry and upset. So what if I saw it? You're afraid I'll be kicked out. The bowl of the zither pointed out only his surroundings. You might not be very suitable to go out now. Since you don't understand, follow the gaze of the zither bowl, and glanced at yourself. Only the ancient sword on top, dissatisfied with just a red cross. It was all spotted by the zither bowl just now, one by one. Damn it, it's a script with mud characters. Since you can't help but curse and go fish, you take out the car keys from your pants pocket, throw them on the zither bowl. The car is parked at the door, hidden in the trunk. The zither bowl took the keys and was about to leave. Since he taught him, wait, there's also instant noodles in the trunk, bring a box over, I like the beef flavor. This person actually put instant noodles in the trunk. It's really. The zither bowl couldn't help but ask, can I take a box? Since you're in a bad mood. No, pay for it, 12 yuan a box. 10 minutes later, the two opened the lids of the instant noodles in front of them, and the aroma of the fast food immediately filled the whole room. After eating and drinking, the sky had already started to light up with the discussion.